Welcome back, one and all. I'll nail that down. To the Control Your Epps-perience podcast. I'm the namesake Alan Epps, back on a Sunday here, hoping you all have been controlling your experience all through this past tumultuous week. 2017 is already off to, I want to say some nonsense, but definitely some nonsense. Tense times in the country and the kingdom, if you will. Uh, it's about 10:30 on January 17th, Sunday. So back at this late again. I don't know why I did this to myself. But it does allow me to discuss the playoff football that we got to watch today. Well, starting with yesterday, the Bills beat the Ravens, which I kind of called that to happen. Didn't quite expect the game that we saw. I mean, I knew it was going to be a defensive game, but I thought there would be a little bit more fireworks. But I expected the Bills to win. It's sad that Lamar went down with a concussion, fell back and jammed his head off the ground pretty bad. But yeah, that was the breaks. And he had just thrown a pick six, so he didn't get a chance to really redeem himself. But I think the better team won. The team that would either pose for a better AFC Championship game or a Super Bowl game won the game. Uh, the Packers won. I fully expected that to happen. It's crazy that this was Aaron Rodgers' first chance to host the NFC Championship game in Green Bay. So that's weird, considering the career that he's had. But I expected him to win, and they did. And then moving into today, the uh, the Chiefs narrowly beat the Cleveland Browns. I expected a good game here, but I just did not think that the Browns would be able to hold the Chiefs back for too long. The Chiefs are never out of any game with the offense that they have. But at the beginning of the third quarter, Patrick Mahomes went down in a similar fashion as Lamar, where he jammed his head into the ground and was out of the game with a concussion. So Chad Henne comes in. I didn't even know he was still in the damn league. But Chad Henne comes in, throws an interception. The Browns get within 5 with some momentum. But then Chad gets the ball back, goes for a big, tough run for 9 yards. Looked like it got him the first, but it didn't. And then they went and got a first down. No, hold on. Yeah, third down run within inches. And then freaking Andy Reid, everybody thinks that he's going to snap the ball. Well, not snap the ball on fourth and inches. He's just going to do a hard count, try to get them to jump. And then if they don't jump, burn a timeout, then either call a QB sneak or a fullback. That's something, crazy high percentage to get those last couple of inches to get the first down and seal the game. And yeah, so he goes down to the last few seconds of the clock. And what does he do? He snaps the damn ball with his backup quarterback, mind you. And it's basically a rollout right, Z option out. So the Z, for those of you who aren't too football league, the Z receiver is typically the slot guy, and he just ran a simple out route, and it happened to be, I think it was Tyreek Hill, and he caught an out route, fell in bounds, and boom, that was the game. So shout out to Andy Reid, who they would have been crucifying his ass if that shit didn't go that way. But hey, ifs don't matter. He won, and we're gonna get to see the Chiefs and the Bills in the AFC Championship game. So it's hard to bet against the Bills, but against the Chiefs. But if anybody's gonna beat them, it's gonna be the Bills. The Bills have a stout defense. The Chiefs actually I ran the ball against them, which was crazy. Nobody saw that coming. But I guess if you sell out to stop Patty and his receivers, somebody's gonna be able to run the rock. But yeah, it's gonna be a great game in Kansas City. Last time they were in Buffalo and the Chiefs won, so who knows what's gonna happen there. And then of course that goes to the late game tonight that just ended not too long ago against Old Man Brady and Old Man Breeze. And it looks like the Bucks have pulled it off, a 10-point victory. I didn't really watch it. I watched some of it go back and forth, but it looked like the Saints had stolen the momentum. Last I saw it, they had a couple of good special teams returns, but then their returner got knocked out the game. And Jameis Winston threw like this out of the wildcat. He threw like a reverse / flea flicker bomb to a receiver, got them ahead. And yeah, I thought the Saints were going to roll on that one, but Brady led them boys back. So now it's going to be the freaking Buccaneers in their first postseason trip since their Super Bowl win, some 20 years ago, I think, against Aaron Rodgers. So Brady and Rodgers in the NFC Conference Championship. I'm going to go with Green Bay on that. even though the Bucks have the better defense, it's not like a lights out defense, and Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. Uh, the Bucks have a decent offense and get going, but I think a decent scheme and a decent defense slows them down enough. I don't think Green Bay's pass rush is all that elite, but I think that Aaron Rodgers has the tools, the running game, etc., to control the clock, keep Brady off the field, and to make every possession count. Whereas the Bucks, they're streaky. So who knows? But I like Aaron Rodgers at home for that. So I guess I'm predicting Aaron Rodgers versus Patty Mahomes in the Super Bowl. But we literally have a quarterback battle royale going into which is awesome. You got Brady Breeze, you got Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes, assuming that he clears concussion protocol. So let's hope that works out for next week. Who else was in there? Lamar. You had the best quarterbacks featured in this NFL postseason, even if there were some oddballs and newcomers too that we're not used to seeing in the postseason. So yeah, we'll go from there. Let's get into the COVID vaccine hullabaloo. So if you haven't been paying attention, the governor of Oregon recently lambasted President Trump because evidently there is a shortage of the second dose of COVID vaccines, to the point where they were assured, I guess, when the vaccines first became available, the states had to request X amount of vaccines, whatever, and it was known that you need 2 doses for the full benefit of the vaccine to go. So they ordered X amount of doses, and they got it, and then I guess they put their advance order for, however many second doses. And not only have those orders not been filled, but when the governors go to follow up on it, they find out that they don't exist. So basically, Trump rolled out the first doses way ahead, and we obviously know why that was. I mean, that was a major part of his attempt to get reelected, promising a vaccine before this, that, and the third. Whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. So, but now the second doses are gone, or don't even exist. You can't even say they're gone. They didn't exist in the first place. So, that sent me into a Google frenzy. And I actually reached out to a friend of mine who will remain nameless, but she is a nurse with the United States Army, and they have sent her all over the world when it comes to combating infectious disease. She's done work in Africa with Ebola, HIV, and they actually brought her back stateside now. So she's in the thick of it, if you will, dealing closely with the CDC and the Army's response to coronavirus. So I, first of all, hit her up and was like, yo, what have you heard about this? And the first question, I'll read you the text messages that I got so I don't misquote. All right. So the first thing she wanted to ask me was, which brand? Was it Pfizer or Moderna? Which I thought was an interesting question, but it'll become more clear once I get into this explanation. But when I went to go check the governor's comments, she didn't limit it to either one, so I assumed it was both. So I asked her both, and I sent her the article. And then she went out of her way to thank God that her local area had gotten their second doses secured already, which makes sense. I mean, they're them. So then my specific question was, you get the first dose, and they recommend that I think it's 28 days within the plus or minus 4 days of the first dose, you get the second dose for the full benefit of the vaccine to take place, saying that the first dose is not adequate to provide the desired level of immunity. So what happens if you get the first dose and you never get the second dose? Or well, I guess we know they said you're not going to get the immunity, but what happens if you get the second dose but it's outside of those parameters, the 28 days plus or minus 4 days? And she didn't know off the top of her hand, so she said she had to go home and do some research. And then in typical black people mode, she forgot about me. So I hit her up again today before the pod. And she sent me some resources, and it looks like this comes straight from the CDC. And they basically reaffirmed the 4-day grace period. And it almost seemed like an administrative thing, but they're saying that no, you wouldn't need a second dose if you got it 4 days too early or 4 days too late. They would count you as within it's 23 days, excuse me, within the window. And the way she says she interprets it, so it's saying that, which is interesting, that the 28 days, talking about Moderna or not specifically Pfizer, is 28 days between the first or second dose. You have a 4-day grace period, And then the second picture that she screenshot me is the maximum interval for which you to get the second dose. But there is no maximum interval. So what they're saying is that there's no data, which makes sense because this, I want to say the vaccine was rushed. It is on a very short timetable that they came up with this. However, this has been, as I've spoken to other medical professionals, specifically black medical professionals who I trust, my age and everything like that, there's been an unprecedented amount of money and resources dedicated from the central government agencies and to developing this vaccine. So that's a major part of what causes other vaccines to take so long. Not in addition to the science, the scientific processes and equipment that are available now versus back when they were trying to come up with the vaccine for polio have advanced, obviously. But the amount of focus and resources made available where people can work day and night to do this. They don't have to go secure government funding or grants to try and chase down a vaccine. The entirety of the medical community was focused on one singular goal. So that contributed to the record turnaround for this. But even if that's the truth, the fact of the matter is they come up with a product. They haven't had the time to go through, the what if scenarios or what if you don't get this optimally on it. They only have an established parameter. So it's not so much saying that outside of the 28 days the first vaccine becomes useless, which was my concern. But they just don't know because they haven't tested it outside. They have a specific parameter that they wanted to meet that if the vaccine didn't meet the parameters in their lab or clinical trials, they weren't going to feel it. And they've satisfied that with the 2-stage. So it sounds like a whole bunch of we don't know and we won't know. But I think that's obviously irresponsible that if you're planning a rollout and you're allocating doses, why not allocate both doses at the same time? Now, I'm not, it stands to reason that the first dose and the second dose are separate or at least slightly different. But I don't know that for sure. I'm waiting on an answer from another colleague of mine who works specifically with developing vaccines. But let's say whatever's in batch A and batch B differ slightly, or even if they're the same one and you just got to reboost it again. It stands to reason that if it's outside of the parameters, the 23 or 28 days, depending on the brand, plus or minus 4, that the first one just doesn't go away. It just doesn't necessarily live up to the levels of immunity they experienced in the clinical trial, and that they felt that they assured that 97, I think it was like 97% immunity by delivering that second booster, if you will. Whether or not it's the same stuff or it's complementary stuff to batch A. So they rely on batch A to enter your body, do some things, and then batch B to build upon it. I don't know, and I'm waiting on that answer. But what they're not saying is that batch A just suddenly becomes ineffective without getting batch B. They just can't guarantee it to the levels of immunity that they first said that, hey, our product, when taken as directed, will give you this level of immunity. That makes sense. The other issue, and this goes back to why she asked me if this was Pfizer or Moderna, is that these are mRNA vaccines. So they are the way that they are developed is specific to a specific lab sequence. So even though they might work off the same technology, like the Pfizer and the Moderna brand both are using mRNA, they use a different mRNA sequence. They use different method where, like I said, there was an A and a B vaccine, 2-dose. Part B from Moderna is not going to work with Part A from Pfizer and vice versa. It has to go with the same sequence and everything like that. So in my mind, if I'm in charge of the rollout here and I'm selling the doses as a pair, okay, if they're the same stuff, then if I have 100,000 doses and dose A and dose B, like the Part 1 and Part 2 are exactly the same, I only have 50,000 applicable doses then because I'm selling them in pairs. I'm selling them off. I'm keeping somebody, when I administer to you, your serial number is coded to this one, you come back and this is your dose. And the only time a second dose frees up is if the person never comes back or they die or whatever. I'm selling 2 doses. That's just how that is. To guarantee that the first one doesn't go to waste, because while we don't know if it just becomes useless after the tour, why take the chance? Why? And if it doesn't become useless, why minimize the effect? I don't know. But that's just a logistical nightmare, and I mean that's on par with everything of this presidency. So more to follow with that. I suspect that there's going to be a whole, which is humans are funny. One minute nobody wants it, nobody trust it. Next minute, well, give it to me now. Blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I still maintain my stance where until I'm in a higher risk group, either because of my personal health or my activities and stuff like that, I'm still going to hold off. Because one dose or two dose, I want to see what it does to folks before I do it. That would change if I was out amongst people more, or if I had some kind of health complication to arise. But that's not where I'm at right now. So more to follow on that. But also in COVID-related news, you guys will recall the name Rebecca Jones. So Rebecca, with a K, is the data analyst and programmer who was working in Florida, and she met with a lot of controversy because this is back when Florida was first trying to reopen after the first shutdown. So they were trying to manipulate the COVID numbers to show a positive trend or a negative trend in new infections and stuff like that to justify Florida reopening. And they leaned on this girl who built the dashboard so that citizens could log in and see what the information was. They wanted her to manipulate the curves to make it appear to support reopening as a good decision, and she refused to do it. So she was fired. And then a couple of pods ago, I'm not sure how many weeks ago, but recently, at the end of 2020, there was a raid that was executed on her house by the local sheriff's office. Now, when I say raid, I mean they went in there with a warrant and everything and took a bunch of her laptops and stuff like that. Now, they didn't necessarily kick in her door, and that was the subject of the whole thing because here the police tell it. They told her ahead of time, hey, we're coming to serve this warrant by this time. Be ready to be outside. Whoop, whoop. Of course, she didn't. And then guns were drawn and whatever. But it was my remarks at the time were it must be nice to be white and to know that you're getting raided ahead of time and decide if you want to comply and still not get shot. And on the flip side, it was, why the fuck are they raiding her house? And of course, the sheriff at the time, the charges said that they had nothing to do with the previous dust up over COVID, her firing, or anything to come from the POS governor of Florida, that this was unrelated, but they wouldn't say what it was. So now there's a story out, it came across my phone just as I started pressing record, that she intends to turn herself in to authorities. But it doesn't list the charge. And they go out of their way to still maintain that whatever she's being accused of has nothing to do with the code, but they won't specifically relay a charge. So why she's turning herself in and for what, I have no idea. But she's intending to turn herself in. In her mind, it's that way they have to come on record, which I get that. They have to come on record and say what they're charging her with, what they're accusing her of, because she knows she didn't do anything wrong, so she wants to go in there and combat it. But on the flip side, it's like, how is this? I mean, I know how. This is the shit that's close to the Gestapo state. When they're doing this to a white woman, what you think they're going to do to your ass? But that's something I'm going to keep my eye on moving forward. What charges she actually formally gets charged with. They said that they didn't find squat on her damn laptops in the first place, and that was weeks ago when this raid happened. And they were basically accusing her of accessing systems and stuff that she either wasn't supposed to have access to or was secured or whatever. But she even said, I'm not a hacker. Dude, that's not what I do. Like, I physically do not have the ability to do what you're accusing me of. You've looked over, you've kicked in my door. Well, not kicked in, but you come into my house with a warrant, weapons drawn. You've taken my materials. You gave them back, saying that there was nothing on there. So that's what I'm saying. Why is she getting arrested now? Who knows? We'll find out. More locally, so I'm sure many of you have seen the viral footage of the night before the whole attempted insurrection or attempted coup, that a young black woman who was in a uniform was outside in D.C. and a white woman basically threw her hand at her. Now, whether or not I can't see from the angle, whether or not she actually struck her in her face or was trying to strike her in her face, but it looked, in my opinion, it looked like she was trying to get the young black woman's phone out of her hand because the black woman was recording, and in the process of trying to get her phone, she possibly grazed her face or even just tried to slap her phone. Either one was more than enough to get what she got. And the black woman, she squared her shoulders and threw the crispest of crosses to that woman's nose, split her shit wide the fuck open, and of course that went viral. Since then, the woman's daughter has come out and blasted her because evidently the daughter has been kicked out of the house multiple times for being gay, and the mother has told her repeatedly not to go to Black Lives Matter protests because they're going to get you hurt, and, saying that black people don't know how to act. So she's trolling her online, said that her aunt and racist uncle were also there in that mob, accosting the black officer, whose name is Ashanti Smith. And this is how small the world is. Before I even figured out what her actual name was on my Facebook feed, of which I'm locked out, but I can still view things. I just can't post. A friend of mine is actually this young lady's realtor and just sold her a house not too long ago. So I obviously wanted to find out because in typical scammer fashion, people were setting up GoFundMe's and fake cash apps trying to get money off of her situation. So I reached out to my mutual friend and was like, hey, let me know when she actually posts some legit, you know, support information up. And then two, because I know a few lawyers, civil rights lawyers in the area, they might be interested in helping her because it said the only word we had at the time was that she was fired. And I didn't know, I couldn't recognize that uniform. It didn't quite look like a Metro uniform, but it looked like, when I say Metro, I mean the Metro Transit in D.C. But I knew she worked for somewhere, and I was hoping maybe she got a union, because if she got fired, the union's going to fight for her or whatever. But I knew that, like, you know, legal fees and everything, first-hand experience can be insane in that regard. But she told me she wasn't working for the Metro, and she didn't want to let me know where her actual job was, which I understood. But it's come out that was a former special police officer or a special security officer in D.C., and it's an unarmed position. It's a licensed position, but it's unarmed, which is insane. I mean, you'll never get me working any kind of fucking security without a weapon. Fuck you. But she had her sweater on with her little patch on there, and she was fired. Now, I don't know why she was fired. I'm sure that she wasn't fired until immediately after this incident. So to say that she wasn't fired for punching this white woman is a lie. But I remember when I had gone to her Facebook page, which she had changed her name, or I don't know if that was her name from Jump, but by the time I got to her Facebook page, it was labeled Griselda Blanco, which, for those of you who don't know, Griselda was the actual Griselda was a drug lord from, I want to say, Colombia, famous female drug lord that ended up getting shot in the head not too long ago. Like, she was old, like, out the game, and they shot her, so I guess ain't no expiration on disrespecting drug beef. But anyway, she's a, I don't want to say a cult classic, but she's a icon in the hood world, if you will. So that was her name on there, and when I just went to her page, I'd seen a post from maybe like a week or two ago, something along the lines of, fuck this job, don't come up here trying me, I don't need this job, I'll lose it in a second to get you in order. So along those lines, I'm paraphrasing, making shit up. But the point is, I'm sure that whoever fired her is going to cite her online conduct for cause, even though we know that up until yesterday, it ain't had shit to do with, or not yesterday, up until she punched this white woman, it ain't had shit to do with shit. Like, they firing her because she punched this white woman in uniform. Which, I feel like any lawyer at the very least won't get her job back, but will be able to get her a nice settlement because she was clearly being accosted, clearly being surrounded, clearly being defensive with her cell phone video recording things, and then she was assaulted. Now, just because she won doesn't mean, and she got the better of the assault, does not mean that she wasn't initially assaulted. So, I do know her GoFundMe is up, and if I can find the link again, I will post it in the comments here. Please, 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 please think about supporting her. I remember when I first saw it, it was around 56,000. Then it grew to 100,000. I think I saw a report, I haven't checked this since, it was around 200,000, which may seem excessive to you, but consider that she did just buy a house in the DMV area, so that's taxing. She's going to need lawyers because she's not only got to, sue for employment for whatever, for wrongful termination, but she has been charged with assault. So she's got to defend herself from that, and then God knows what kind of civil suit this Karen is going to try and bring to her, because of course she immediately, we heard in the video, Karen wanted to be victim, saying that the black girl hit her, BLM hit her, like she didn't do shit wrong. So those fees are going to get soaked up pretty quickly, all the while she's not working. She's got to protect her mental health, all that. So if you can, we need to protect her at all costs. And as another aside, I found out that she went to Duval High School, which is about 2 miles north of my house. Now, not even 2 miles. Yeah, about 2 miles. I bring that up because when I was growing up, I went to Parkdale, home of the Panthers. Shout out Panthers. But I live almost across the street from Eleanor Roosevelt, which is a very well-to-do high school in PG County. All these schools are less than 5 miles apart in either direction. So Eleanor Roosevelt was known as where the smart kids went, the bougie school, whatever. You had to test in Eleanor Roosevelt, and there was a lot of white kids there. There was a decent amount of black people, but it was still a white high school, if you will. Duval was right up the street, but when I was in high school, Duval got shut down because it hadn't been renovated in years. There were roaches and rats and all kinds and the heating issues and stuff like that. So when Duval got shut down, a lot of those kids got sent to Parkdale because Roosevelt wasn't taking them, even though Roosevelt was closer to them. Roosevelt damn sure wasn't taking them. So they all went to Parkdale. I say all that to say that these are the type of girls I went to high school with. When I saw that they from the shoulders, okay, none of this hair pulling and shit like that. The chicks I know, they threw them, and that shit just warmed my heart. I watched that clip so many times. So shout out to Ashanti Smith with the gunshots from the shoulders. We need more of that in the culture. Like, the white people are not gonna start acting right until they start getting eye jammies and DVD septums. That's just it. That's just what it is. All right, make them turn the other cheek because the first one got whammed. Make them understand the ramifications. Shout out Tony Baker of their actions. And more black girl magic. So let's get on Lori Harvey because honestly, I'm tired of people. So my exposure to Lori Harvey, I mean, I knew that Steve had married her mother, and then I was like, damn, she shorty fine, like. But then I went to go look into her, and even though she's Cougar Bay, you know, I learned that she had evidently dated a drug lord back in the day. I want to say in Detroit or Chicago, one of them. Drug lord back in the day, and then said drug lord went to jail, and then she got with drug lord's cousin, and then I don't know if he died and went to jail. She got his money, and now she's on to Steve, and I was like, well, I mean, Steve, big dummy, if you, whatever. And again, I don't mean that to besmirch her character because I've never met the woman ever. But I know what Kanye said. She ain't messing with no broke niggas, and clearly there's lines she's willing to cross. Now, maybe she had the blessing. I don't know. But cousins, come on. So she went to Steve, and they looked happy, so I was happy for him. Whatever, you know. But I was just waiting for the, okay, when they break up, duh. You know, she got this man dressing all kinds of fashion for it, if you would. I remember not too long ago, he had a picture with his damn toes out in some sandals that looked like they could have come from Rainbow, but he did all this while hanging out of a helicopter. So I mean, live your best life, Steve. But that was my first introduction to Marjorie Harvey, and then that she had a daughter named Lori Harvey. And I was like, oh, Steve, they got a daughter. Kind of find out that's Marjorie's daughter. Steve adopted her. Whatever, big black happy family, right? And then I really didn't pay her any more mind until Meek Mill dropped some song. I forgot what it was. But talking about Lori Harvey on his wish list. And then I was like, who is it? I went to go look at her. I'm like, she's a pretty girl. She's cute, but nothing that made me just, yeah, damn. You know what I mean? Not that I would ever have an issue or be faced with those problems. She clearly moves in circles that I don't. But she was not, I've seen rappers go crazy over other chicks, and I didn't understand this right here. Whatever. So then, of course, she started dating Future, and that's when she got the eyebrow raised from me, because when they posted it was right around when Life is Good came out, and I believe that was the caption. They were in some kind of pool on some exotic location, all doing the boot up thing, and I was like, God damn, who's that? And then I saw, oh, that's Lori. I'm like, all right, I get it now. But that was it. And then it strikes me, though, because no other Instagram, I'm not calling Lori Harvey an Instagram model. I don't know what her claim to fame is other than being Lori Harvey. But what I say is, most of these rappers, you know, they pass around, not pass around, they all frequent the same pool of women. Like, I mean, like Dream and Bow Wow, Lil Wayne, you know, they all got baby mamas and exes in common, which, whatever. I boil that down to circles. You date who you know or who you move around. I do think it's a little odd that it's the same chicks over and over again, because I know if I got that kind of money at that age, and that access, there's no shortage of women, bad women. So why it's the same chicks who themselves aren't necessarily, like, it's not a bunch of Rihannas or Beyonces or anybody like that. It's Instagram girls, influencers. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to cast aspersion on them. I'm just saying that there's so many of them. Like, why? And I'm guessing it's ease of access. Like, not only they're around, they're with it. You don't have to work too hard. I don't know. But it's the same 20 broads, okay? So when I saw Lori, you know, Lori had been linked to Trey Songz. Like, I don't know. I'm not trying to go down her cat facts or whatever. But, again, she was able to fade to the background for me, because not only was she not all that bad to me initially, but she stayed under the radar. She just lived her best life. And I respected the fuck out of that. And then it became like a cool, because this was right around the time when the internet kept doing like the City Boys up 10 or down 50 or Hot Girls up this, that, and the third. And Lori had been appointed the patron saint of the Hot Girls, even though, oh, hold on, that's another issue. The women who were saying, yes, Lori, get the back, don't move like Lori at all. but whatever. I guess the same thing can be said about niggas who idolize Future. Whatever. Um, so yeah, I really just didn't care who she was. You know, and then they broke up, and with all of Future's other recent breakups, you know, from Sierra to this Elijah Rain girl who he got pregnant, but then claimed that he was just giving Shorty a chance to experience him, and that she's ugly, and that he didn't mean to, and this, that, and the third. And that girl ain't nobody's ugly, but whatever. She does do the most, but whatever. You know, his drama's always in the streets, and niggas love that shit. And I'm sure he loves it because he just puts it in an album and he gets millions of dollars. But with Lori, they just kind of broke up, and you really didn't know about it until the Instagram captions changed. Well, I guess those of you who insist on following gossip and being in celebrities' business or swearing, half the time y'all ain't be in their business. You just think you know because you heard it from some other gossiper. But I guess when people start unfollowing people, that's a death knell. How y'all niggas even know who unfollows who? Whatever. I don't know. But anyway, so now, long story short, she is now dating and has gone Instagram official with Michael B. Jordan. And for some reason, that's got a lot of you upset. And I'm genuinely confused and disappointed, mostly because, I mean, I expect this from ashy niggas. Like, there's no shortage of niggas who talk about a chick is for the streets, but can't even get to the bus stop on that street. Hold on. Like, where do you get off? It's always the niggas who calling chicks a hoe who couldn't hit. So, what does that make you if you can't hit the hoe? Like, where does that, and that's really the root cause of it, is that niggas who have no access, no chance, or you know, and resent it, have to find a reason to throw salt and mud at somebody else. But what really, I don't want to say shocked me, but disappointed me was the black women talking about, oh, she's going to be used up, she's not saving anything for her husband, I feel sorry for the nigga who actually marries her because she's not going to have anything left. And never mind the fact that a lot of these chicks look like, never mind the fact that a lot of these chicks are not aesthetically gifted, if you will. The fact is, half of them, they single moms themselves. So, like, what were you doing if you got life so figured out that Lori doesn't? Because I don't see any of your work, you know, with her kind of resume. And the funny thing was, there's a girl on Twitter who I won't say I know in real life, but I've never met her, but we've been Facebook friends for a while, and I'm hardly ever on Twitter. The most I tweet is when I'm in Facebook jail. But this shit went viral, and she made a comment about how Lori Harvey has dated more niggas than she has, and I'm way older than her. I'm like 37 or something like that. And of course, the internet went nuts on her. Okay, Miss No Bitches. It was fucking funny. But that's crazy to me because it's like I have seen the same Facebook friend go on Facebook Live and IG Live crying and bemoaning the niggas in her life that have done her wrong. Okay, and I don't view this as like dirty macking or spilling nobody's business because I only know about it because, like I told you, I've never met this girl. I only know about it because of IG Live. Full disclosure, I've tried to smash Shorty. She has a great set of tits, at least from what I can understand or ascertain from the outside. I've never seen them naked or anything, but they look like some grade A tits. But the only thing I know about her is that she went to school with another one of my good friends who I actually know in real life, and she used to post all kinds of nonsense on Facebook or jump in. When I added her, she would jump into my comments in there with the wildest takes, but whatever. Let her have it. Let her make it. So it progressed to she would post some pictures. I'm like, oh, okay, let me try to get out there or whatever. Didn't really get anywhere, and you know I respected the curve. No shade to her, but you know how chicks do when they either feel like you're in their inbox or they told you no, that somehow they've sunned you. Okay, but whatever. But she never really acted on that. But I can see if this ever gets back to her, that's exactly the angle she's going to take. So put a pin in that. But anyway, she went on Facebook Live, tears, makeup, everything running, about screaming at this nigga who wasn't there. Talking about she's throwing all this shit out, she's tired of black men, this, that, whoop, whoop, whoop. And then I was genuinely concerned for Shorty. I wasn't using this as an angle to like, oh, that's terrible. Here's a dick to cry on. You know what I mean? I would have, but that's not why I was hitting her. I was just like, she looked genuinely disheveled, like she was in crisis. And I was genuinely concerned for her. So I asked her, like, Shorty, what's going on? She just told, like, and then, you know, I'm in the comments. I'm not DMing her. I'm like, what's going on? And she's answering me, and she's all like how she stood through this nigga thick and thin. He's a promoter slash scammer. He never has money. He's got a daughter that he don't really take care of. He brings the daughter over to her house where she watches the daughter, feeds her, cooks for her. He keeps a bunch of his Jordans and shit, and that's what she was throwing out the door or the window or whatever to, this, that, and the third. And I was genuinely worried about her because then the live cut out, and then she came back on, and you could hear this nigga screaming, and I guess he had locked him out or whatever, and was throwing his shit out, and he was hollering at her, and I was worried because this was right around the time in the district there was, I forget Shorty's name, but another woman had gotten beaten and shot by her boyfriend who she broke up with. So I'm like, yo, do you need me to pull up? Like, I'd have done that sight unseen, not just because, again, I did or was offering her penis, but I didn't want this to go bad like that. I didn't want her to think she was alone. But she said no, she was good. Dude went away, and this was months ago. So that was the last I heard of it. Let a few months go by. She did some traveling. She posted some top flight bikini suit pictures and all that. I was like, all right, cool. Maybe she's over it. Let me try it again. She was not having none of my fuck shit. And that's the end of it. There was never no salt. Never no, well, fuck you then, bitch. You know what I mean? And I'm not bringing this up because she hurt me. Like I said, I didn't know who she was until I looked at the Twitter name and Abby. I'm like, well, how do I know her? And then I went on Twitter, logged in, and was like, oh, that's Shorty from Facebook. But it's just like, where do women get off on dragging, especially sister dragging, and she's literally living the dream, y'all's dream, that you would be doing the exact same thing if you were in her position, if you had the ability to. Like, I just listened to you chicks, like, not even 2 months ago, cry about Kevin James and telling that girl that she was average and that she can't expect to pull a high quality 6-figure dude looking the way she do. And y'all got all upset. And then now that Lori, who can and does, is living the dream, y'all still mad. Like, why were you mad that Kevin James wouldn't sell this girl a dream, but you mad at Lori for living that same dream? Like, somebody answer me that shit. Like what? What is she supposed to? What is she's just supposed to date regular niggas, or she only gets a chance to date one famous nigga, and then if she don't make it work with him, she just gotta go away, even though she sees famous niggas all day, every day. Like, what is she supposed? You date in your circle. And I saw another take. It was like, people celebrate the Kardashians for this shit, and this is more on the men. A lot, by all intents and purposes, Kim and now even her sisters are large. I don't want to say against Kourtney. Kourtney's my personal favorite Kardashian. I don't really have a favorite Kardashian, but she's the only one who don't seem crazy to me. But between Kim and the rest of them are pretty much considered hoes and only relevant because of Kim's sex tape. But niggas still line up to get to Kim. Kanye's with Kim for now, anyway. So, and she got a whole sex tape. And y'all and she's celebrated, but Lori is just dating, and all y'all know is that she's dating them. You ain't no sex tape, ain't no drama, no babies, no nothing like that. And she's shamed by y'all motherfuckers. It just comes down to show that black women can't win for losing. They damned if they do, they damned if they don't. So if that's the case, in my mind, do you? Because these motherfuckers gonna hate regardless. Let them be bitter and ugly and poor. Like, that's just my take on it. All right, so I could see if Lori was like one of these Instagrammers who has to like follow Baller Alert and just conveniently be where the ballers are, like flying to All-Star weekends just to trying to get shows and shit like that. But no, they're coming for her. They know her name. They move in each other's circles. She's not imposing herself on these niggas, and they coming after her. And you know what part of the appeal is? Is that they know that their business ain't gonna be in the fucking street. Whereas every time one of these Instagram chicks, the influencers, because that's part of what their influence is, they gotta leak what happened. Even if it didn't end on bad circumstances, it sells. Drama sells. So they'll release a screenshot or saying that, he didn't want to he made me get an abortion. Something. Okay? And I'm not absolving the men in these relations, because I'm sure that they're toxic as fuck, because that's why they got these Instagram chicks, because they can manipulate them. They know that these girls want to ride their wave, so they're going to do whatever the fuck they want. Kind of like with this Von Miller shit, where, his shorty or ex-shorty is having a baby, and he's trying to get her to have an abortion, or he's praying for a miscarriage and saying that she trapped him. But You can very clearly see in her DMs and in not even the DMs, just in the comments under her pictures that he's like, "Oh, this is mine. I'm gonna shoot this club up. She gonna have my baby. Whoop whoop." So now I guess he has second thoughts, either because he met another girl, or because he just didn't really have feelings for this Instagram girl. So I side on her with that because that's some full on trash behavior. But at the same time, there's a reason why she's releasing the messages and everything, because it helps her brand. You're not gonna see that from Lori Harvey. So I can only boil down the niggas who hate on her are envious and salty that they're getting, ran through, if you will, like that she's living her best life, and maybe that, the women are having a little fun with finally a woman's doing to niggas what they do to us. So I can see that, and I'm here for that. I mean, don't hurt me either way. You know what I mean? Like, it only bothers the niggas who feel like a woman could run them, like whatever. And then for the women, are just jealous that they'll never have the opportunity to date one of these niggas, let alone a bunch of these niggas, and not only date them, have them coming after them. So I don't know what people's problem is. I feel like she should be celebrated. She's a socialite. She's doing it right. She's protecting herself. She's young. Why she can't date? Why she can't date? And for you ashy motherfuckers trying to say, "Oh, where's that Lori Harvey energy when Future does it?" Future's throwing babies and bitches everywhere that he has no intention of taking care of. So that's why. When Lori starts using babies to get, child support and everything like that, then yeah, maybe then you could equate her to Future. But until then, shut the fuck up, dude. Shut up. Lori Harvey, I salute you. Yeah, keep living your best life. From black girl magic to white folk nonsense. I saw a story about that dude who calls himself the QAnon Shaman. He's the dude who's dressed up with the bison horns and the fur headdress, and he was in the Capitol. And evidently, when he was arrested, they said that he hadn't eaten for several days because he's on a organic diet and there's nothing there for them to eat. So it was like kind of like a hunger strike. And I laughed. I was like, oh, okay, die slow. And then in typical fucking America, what do? They go and get this fucker an organic diet. I'm like, it's jail, nigga. The fuck? Never mind who's paying for that shit. Like, who gives a fuck? Make him eat that shit. That's part of the jail experience. Shitty fucking food. Fuck you. Must be nice to be. Like, aside from the sunburn and the Lou Gehrig's disease and the lice, it must be nice to be white. So it's like, and if you're white listeners, don't get butthurt. You know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. Like not eating. If this was a black person, and I've seen it on fucking what's that shit, Lockup or Lockup Raw, they will put a tube down your throat and force feed you to keep you from dying, and they won't go get the organic shit. So we do this for a white terrorist, a traitor. Boggles my fucking mind. And so some developments behind the attempted coup. So I'm getting annoyed with the reporting of this, calling it a riot or protest. Obviously, it was way more than protest, and even a riot is not fair, because a riot, to quote Dr. King, is the voice of the unheard. But riots are chaos. They evolve. Situations get a little out of hand and everything. This was a coordinated effort. Okay, and it's becoming more and more apparent that it's coordinated, just because of the details that are coming out. Now it's being alleged that members of Congress were allowing tours and even aiding to people who have since been identified and caught having breached the Capitol, showing them where things were and everything like that. Which, okay, that was a that was a theory. I know, like I said, I told you guys last time, I've never been on the steps of Capitol, but I know you can get tours and stuff. Now, how often are tours being led by elected officials? I don't think that's a thing. So if they were involved in that, that's blatantly points to possible collusion. But then Congressman Ayanna Pressley stated that they had panic buttons inside their offices, and then less than a week before the riot, those panic buttons have been torn out. So if you factor in the alleged involvement of elected officials with the tours or gaining recon and intel and reconnaissance for the people who would eventually storm the Capitol. Then the fact that outspoken super liberal, if you were a member of the squad, among others, had their panic buttons removed. And then you go and compare it to what happened right before, where there's a representative from Colorado who, hold on, let me find her name, but she is very pro-gun, and she actually, this is her, she's a freshman, congresswoman from Colorado, and I think she first made waves, maybe not to nationally, but to anybody who's in the gun argument, where she ambushed Beto O'Rourke. So Beto O'Rourke was still running for making his Senate run, and he had already made his comments about, heck yeah, we're going to take their guns, we're going to take your AR-15s. So she basically went to one of his rallies or like public forums, and you can see this on YouTube. You can Google it. Her name is Lauren Boebert, and she's a staunch Second Amendment advocate. She carries in Colorado all the time. So she wanted to be able to carry a weapon in Congress. And Congress, the halls of Congress and well, D.C. in general, but specifically inside the chamber, have strict no weapons policy. Now, I do know that congressional members are allowed to get carry permits if they so want to carry, but there's still even spaces where they're not allowed to be armed. And she said that was, she feels that's unconstitutional. She objected to it. She even committed to trying to swear in while wearing a pistol on her hip. So now, if you factor all three of those things, where she is fighting so hard to get it so that congressional members can be armed in the chamber, on the one hand, if you look at it in a vacuum, okay, yeah, that's fine. That's part of her policy. That's part of her politics. She agrees with the Second Amendment. She agrees with carrying a weapon at all times, whatever. But then if you put that into, these congressional members were linked to these people who stormed the Capitol. The panic buttons of the most liberal members of the Democrat Party were destroyed. And now you've got this Republican who wants to carry a gun in the halls of Congress. That, again, I love conspiracy theories. They just have to make sense. There has to be a link. That right there points to a coordinated effort. And it's being investigated to that point. Like, this was more than just a few. And then we've already discussed how the police, not even response, because response means after the riot got out of hand, if you will, but the staging, the pre-staging of both police and lack of National Guard, that was made at high levels because the Democratic mayor requested the National Guard. The governor of Maryland offered the National Guard and was denied. So the people who could have instantly got the National Guard, those are the sergeants at arms of the Senate and the House, refused because of the optics or whatever it may be. So that's really what, in my mind, needs to get investigated. Like, why didn't they make that decision instead of just scapegoating the Capitol Police Chief? And then two, once it did get out of order, why weren't the police that were in place a little more heavy-handed than they were? Because this was an attack on the building. This was not a mere riot where Wendy's got burned down. This was an attempt, and it's clear that people were there with the intent of doing harm to congressional members if they got the chance. That's a fucking coup. So it's clear to me that this was coordinated. It's not a riot. It's not a protest. It was a shit-stained, half-assed, half-baked coup attempt. But it was one. And if you live in the DMV area, you already know that these motherfuckers are not playing around, kind of what we expected in the first place at all times, because it's not uncommon that if you're from this area and you're downtown, they'll put snipers on the roof. Like, you'll look up, and they'll, especially downtown, like close to the Capitol, close to the White House, and there's just people on the roof, and they're not doing maintenance up there. Okay, there's more police, more armed, agents or whatever in D.C. than anywhere else in this country. So for this shit to have gone up and only one body have been dropped, well, one civilian body, we know why. But this was clearly coordinated. But I'm interested to see that. I want to see, like I told you guys last podcast, I'm interested to see what qualifiers specific to the attempted coup will be added to charges that are given out. But I hope, and this is me playing the long game, and giving the Democrats the benefit of the doubt that they're not going to pussy up, they're probably holding off on charges because there's still the threat that President Trump could issue a blanket pardon or mass pardons before he leaves if they charge them before then. And it's already expected for him to list to give out hundreds of pardons before he goes to high-end rappers. So I guess Lil Wayne got his fingers crossed, and other associates and people. So who knows if he includes the people already named in arrest for the breach on the Capitol. So maybe that's why. But I'm interested to see where that goes as far as the investigation goes into that. But moving into like the Second Amendment angle. So after the riot, there has been, and you guys can see this on YouTube, there is a concerted effort now to get YouTube influencers who are pro Second Amendment shut down. Not even just shut down, they're already trying to get them off YouTube. YouTube has been censoring with the algorithm, their views and everything, demonetizing their videos and stuff like that. But corporate sponsors have basically kept them afloat and everything like that. So there is a news outlet that we believe is linked to Mike Bloomberg, who funds Anytown, and there's another organization whose sole purpose is to stop the Second Amendment and mandatory gun buybacks and confiscations and stuff like that. They've reached out to several companies saying that, hey, are you going to continue doing business with these well-known gun influencers on YouTube? And when I looked at the list, it's every major gun channel on YouTube, and I follow 70 to 80% of them. And again, if you pay attention, especially you new gun owners, there are a wealth of resources and knowledge in there for you guys to be looking at. You don't necessarily have to follow them or anything like that. But if you spend any time on their channel, you're going to see the Trump crowd. The ones who are, the Democrats and then QAnon and Hunter Biden's laptop, they're in there because they historically have been pro-gun. The information doesn't know politics. In fact, one of my favorite channels is a dude named Colion Noir. And when I say one of my favorite, I've argued, well, he hasn't argued back, but I've argued against him in his own comment section about some of the things that I think, as a black man, he's been a little bit tone deaf in trying to get alibis for the NRA and how they handle things like Philando Castile's shooting and everything like that. But aside from that, he's an attorney and a pro Second Amendment advocate. So I've argued against him, but he's provided several key, I won't say outtakes, but interpretations of legislation that's coming out and everything like that. And they're trying to get him off because they're politicizing the Second Amendment. And his key thing is that, like, both Democrats and Republicans should be pro Second Amendment. This shouldn't be just a conservative, hill to die on. This is an American hill to die on, and the Second Amendment is valid. But the rest of them, they hardly ever talk about politics. They do gun reviews. They say why this gun is great, why this gun sucks, why you should buy this caliber, why you should buy this scope, this stock, whatever it may be. They don't talk about any kind of politics. You know what I mean? But the letter says that all of these channels basically try to heighten Americans' fears and improperly characterize common sense gun control as an attempt to steal all guns and everything like that. Are you going to continue doing business for them? Which is crazy because in one paragraph you said, hey, these people are drumming up the people who attacked the Capitol, trying to blow out of proportion that we're trying to take your guns, but are you going to stop doing business with them? And the reason being is because each one of these channels has over 250, some of them even have millions of followers. And some of them are like me, where I'm not, a Trump supporter. I'm not some super conservative dude. And up until recently, I was a Democrat for the most part. But I am very much about my guns and my Second Amendment. So that's the problem. These influencers are doing just that. They're influencing people in a wider spectrum. So part of Anytown's agenda, part of Bloomberg's agenda, is to shut them down. One, to stifle information getting out, but then two, to stifle voices, so that his other things that he's pushing for with the politicians that he has bought can go off without a protest and without a hitch. Because for those of you who are saying that they're not trying to take our guns, just because it sounds like something a Trumper would say, why else would they be doing a media blitz on influencers on YouTube? Because they are trying to sway public opinion of what is going on. That's just what it is. If they're winning the idea war, the propaganda war, so that people will willingly go along with destroying the Second Amendment. That's just what it is. They're literally willing to go violate their First Amendment so that they can get to the Second Amendment. And I say it all the time: the Second Amendment is the only thing that guarantees the First. So they go from people who just do gear reviews, but because they are the places where I'm sure everybody who stormed the Capitol follows all those channels. I'm not saying that they're not there. What I'm saying to you is those channels did not whip, at least the one, again, I only follow maybe like 70% of, but none of the ones that I said right there that I follow, and I check their every last one of their content that's released, has ever called or said, we need to go to Washington and kick in the doors or anything like that. They have voiced their displeasure with legislation that comes out. They feel that Democrats are anti-Second Amendment, which, I mean, the Democrats will tell you we're anti, gun ownership, AR ownership, all this other stuff. So yeah, but they have never said that you need to go do this, that, and the third. I think the closest to that is a guy named James Yeager. You guys recall several years ago, he went on MSNBC. I think it was after, not Sandy Hook, Newtown shooting, where he was talking about the AR, and MSNBC chopped up his comments to make him look like he was calling for a civil war and all this other stuff, which he wasn't. You can watch the full interview online. But that's what got me following it. He's just a wealth of knowledge as far as for home defense, gun ownership, tactics, stuff like that. So he's the one he'll frequently say that, hey, when they come for us, we need to be ready. But he's never advocated storming Congress. I mean, in fact, he says, write your congressman, engage in the political process, vote for these people out, vote this out. But all of that is within the political process. Never, and I'm sure if pressed, he would say that, yeah, the election's been stolen. But he hasn't even come on his platform to say that. But this group has come out and tried to get Colion Noir, Mr. Guns and Gear, Iraq Veteran 8888, just a ton of other people who offer great content, who will keep you from buying dumb shit, keep you from buying bad decisions, just things you don't need, help you refine your performance at the range, help you make considerations for as far as mindsets on the best way to defend your house before somebody even gets in there. That's what those channels do. But they want them shut down because they know that they also have the ear of people who are leaning towards, one, storming the Capitol, or two, just owning guns in general. But to them, it's all the same thing. So we need to stifle that. If that's not a clear attack on the Second Amendment, I don't know what else you guys need to hear. Okay? I don't. Because they're passing the same laws that have occurred in England and Australia and every other country that has had gun control, where now their citizens cannot be armed. And now London's even trying to ban knives. Nigga, how? Okay? But just because it's, life is good in London and Australia. Yeah, for now. Because the same thing happened in Soviet Russia and Nazi Germany. That was the first thing they did, was disarm the populace. And frankly, if you're black, again, we all looked at the riots on the Capitol and said, man, them white people problems, we laughed at them, and largely so. But if you're black and you're comfortable being unarmed in this country, that's just pure putting your head in the sand. I don't want to be unarmed anywhere the whites are whiting. Like, ever. I need a fucking close. I feel like I'm riding my own dick when I throw off my own gunshots, but fuck that. I don't want to be anywhere white people are unarmed. That doesn't mean I want to go shoot white people. It's just that you don't know what the fuck they be on at any point in time. And just because they were cool yesterday, don't mean they're going to be cool tomorrow. That's it. That's it. So for all you new gun owners, new black gun owners, if you're going to be out there so quickly to surrender your rights, why did you get one in the first place? That's my question. And if it was because the whites were acting up, but now suddenly they won't because Biden's in office, what makes you think that? I don't know. But yeah, just pay attention to that. That's going to turn into something insane. Trump got impeached again, at least through the House, but it doesn't look like Mitch McConnell is going to allow for the Senate to vote in time. because he's out of there on Wednesday. But he did come out and say that he supports impeachment. So this is the first time the leader of the Republican Party has cast aside and against Donald Trump, which is why I said earlier on my Instagram and Twitter, and a lot of people tried to get in their feelings with me on this, that it's a mistake for the Democrats to even try to impeach him. Not only because they can't get it done, but why do the Republicans clearly want their party back, and finally they can afford to disavow Trump because Trump has officially committed career suicide, political suicide. So now they can distance themselves from him. Whereas before, they would have had to always deal with him for the next 4 years, either A, trying to get him back in office, or B, worrying about him siphoning votes from their political candidate. So a lot of people want to impeach him just because they feel that, oh, that'll mean he can't run again. It's not true. He would need another vote, specific vote, and he'd probably get it. But why would we do that? Let the Republicans implode and fight amongst themselves, because if they are able to unify quickly and Biden does not prove effective before the midterm, or he launches too many what are considered radical policies, which it sounds like right now he's already got. I saw a report somewhere where he's got dozens of executive orders and proclamations ready to go day one. So if those don't pan out the way he wants to, or they pan out too well against a conservative agenda, those houses, those seats that were barely won in the Senate are going to evaporate in the midterm. And even though the Democrats maintained a majority in the House, they lost seats. So who's to say they won't lose some more in the midterm? If you want to guarantee that Biden can stay effective for at least his whole term, you need the Republicans to be hampered. And the best hamper to the Republican Party is Donald Trump. Now, I'm not saying let him get away with the shit that he's pulled, but charge him with crimes, because once he's deemed a felon, he also can't run again. But in the meantime, while those trials are dragging out, he is a thorn in the Republican Party side. He's siphoning votes from them, people who are more loyal to him than the Republican Party. So why not cripple them while we can? Why help them rebrand? Why help them become a thorn in your side again? I don't understand that. I understand the need to be cathartic, to hold him accountable, but is it, especially now that you've impeached him? And again, he's not going to get voted out by the Senate in time. So I don't understand what the point is. But y'all got it. The NYPD up to there saying bullshit. So there's a guy named Deputy Inspector James Coble, and he was in charge of basically ensuring that there is a equal opportunity environment in the New York Police Department, and basically doing reviews and inspections of that. But in his infinite headassery, he had joined some kind of forum called The Rant, that I guess is well known or infamous to law enforcement circles under the name of Clouseau, which I should know that name from somewhere. Hold on. Inspector Clouseau, yes. Inspector Jacques Clouseau is a fictional character in Blake Edwards' farcical The Pink Panther. Yeah, that's where I knew that name from. But that was his screen name in there, and he was saying all kinds of racist shit. Like he called Bill de Blasio's mixed son a Brillo head and all kinds of other shit. And this is the guy in charge of making sure that people aren't being discriminated upon along basis of race, color, creed, religion, all that in the New York Police Department. So big surprise there. He got found out being a dumbass because he put enough key information about his career, I guess, for legitimacy and clout on the chat room, and people were able to piece that together with his actual bio, and then they were able to see where an electronic device made posts to the forum at the same time that he was in the same location. So he has since submitted for retirement, but there's still an investigation pending. So yeah, we already knew. This is the same department, and not just the NYPD that says, oh, we investigated ourselves, we find no wrongdoing. And of course, he's the guy in charge of making sure people aren't being discriminated against. And here he is, the most racist fuck on the planet. So I hope that this investigation concludes not only that what we already know, but dock his benefits, demote him, and get him the fuck out of there. But the NYPD is not unique in that's not even police force wide. That's the military for you. We investigated ourselves. We found nothing wrong. Keeping on the cops, more and more names. I think they're up to like 200 names who were either named or arrested by now in the attempted coup, and a lot of them are off-duty cops. Some of them in Virginia, but I think one of them went down to Tennessee. And there's an Asian cop too, which is always hilarious to me because other races who are on the fringe, who white people are convinced are not as bad as the Negroes, are eager to try to jump ahead of us and look down on us. That's going to make them more accepted by white America. Like if they had our spot, they would suddenly be just as screwed as we are. But more and more police officers off duty are being found, and not only have participated in the rally, but breaching the Capitol, swearing they'd done nothing wrong. And again, I want amplifications of charges. And I'm interested to see what's going to happen to them. Are their law enforcement credentials going to be taken, or are they just going to be fired and allowed to get hired at another department? But that just goes to show that, there's nothing new. Nobody black is surprised by cops participating in this. Nobody. There was a picture of the National Guard who was called in to secure the Capitol, and they're sleeping on the marble floors, and all this fake outrage. I'm sure the outrage is real, but let me tell you something. As a former military member, if you are truly pissed about that, I question how much concern you have for the military members at all, period. Like, where do you think troops in Iraq or any other war zone are sleeping? That they can't deploy unless the Holiday Inn has come in and deployed a bedroll or something like that. Like, what conditions do you think people are sleeping under? So yeah, sleeping on a marble floor is not ideal, but you know where they're not sleeping? Outside in the rain, getting shot at by the enemy and everything like that. And it's the National fucking Guard. Like, they're not bitching about it. They're bitching that they got mobilized, but not the sleeping in it. They're going to put their bedroll down. They're going to lay down. They're going to pass the fuck out. They're not getting shot at. They're getting paid. Like, they're not tripping. But, oh, this is shameful. We need to do better for our troops. What would you want them to do? Bring cots? Wait, like, that's not how response to conflict works. Y'all are fucking annoying. Like, honestly and truly, people just say shit just to say shit. Now, I pretty much don't have anything else, so I'm going to wrap it up with this crazy bullshit. Azealia Banks. I actually intended on coming on here and shouting her praises because thanks to the Joe Budden podcast, I heard a new song that I've never been really a fan of Azealia Banks as a musician. Her music just didn't really do it for me, but I understand she's got a following out there, which is fine. I don't hate on her for that. The problem I have with Azealia Banks is just the fact that she just be running off at the neck. Like, she'll say something, a gem, and then she'll say some other crazy shit out there, like from dry snitching on or lying, I don't know if it's true or not, on her vagina and who she on her bone, to claiming victim and everything, even though didn't nobody do shit to you or whatever. Just to stay relevant. That's become her brand, just to be the complainer. But it is what it is. Well, this latest new shit, she evidently had a cat, and the cat died. And I don't know under what circumstances the cat died, but I'm going to assume it was natural. And she buried the cat. And then on Instagram, she dug the cat up, boiled the cat to get its skull, and is now, I don't think wearing it, but just its decor. And people who follow Azealia Banks said that she has long claimed to be a bruja. For those of you who don't know Spanish, that's like a witch. And this might be along her spirituality, whatever it may be. Which is all well and good on its face. However, bitch, why the fuck are you boiling your cat? And it just goes back to that meme that I shared last year where it was like, you are not a witch, bitch. You just have a bunch of candles and mental health issues. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And again, I don't knock anybody's beliefs and everything like that, but anybody else would be on a 72-hour hold for this shit. You know what I mean? And then you factor in her other erratic ass behavior. Bitch be wildin'. And even if this is your true, you're not insane. This is your spirituality. You know, who am I to say? Santeria and them, they sacrifice chickens, whatever it may be. It's not their chicken. You know, they ain't named a fucking chicken and raise it from an egg. But whatever. Why you put that on fucking Instagram? Like, and I don't want to just knock it on her because I've seen white people do the most with their fucking pets. Like, I've seen doing the taxidermy thing where they have their pet stuffed and as a decoration. I've seen somebody turn their dog into like a rug, like a bearskin rug. I've seen them cut the forelimbs of the cat off and wear them as a keychain. But I mean, I don't put nothing past white people, but I don't know, man. I can't even find her new fucking song. And I would play it anyway because I still don't know what the rules are. I know for YouTube I'd have to edit it and blank it out or they take my video down. I don't know what the rules are for the DSPs, but she's got a new song out. It was a banger. I like the beat. It was weird, but it worked well with her voice and whoever else's voice it was. Where is this? I played Azealia Banks' new song and it's not even. Let me see if it's on YouTube. I want to give y'all the name so y'all can look at it. Not Lazy J. Does she not even have a? Nah, I don't see anything new from her. Everything her lighted. It must be on SoundCloud or whatever. Check out Joe Budden podcast on her sleepers. The mall will tell you what it is. But yeah, I don't know. This is wildin'. For those of you chicks who are into like the alternative, the supernatural, the spooky, that's fine. But come on now, just do better. All right, I'm not gonna put that on all of y'all. I'm not telling you that from a super Christian background because I'm a heathen. You know, I still believe in the overall idea of Christianity, but there's some things that just don't add up for me. But again, this is my intent is not to talk down on alternative religions or spirituality or anything like that, but come the fuck on. Like, and not even for personal perception, because I don't think you should have to hide who you are, but there's got to be a middle ground between hiding who you are and boiling your fucking cat on Instagram for people who are not of your faith. Like, come on. But that's all I got. Till next week. Again, y'all, if y'all want to be part of this, call in. Call in. I know listening to me can get a little tedious, but I thank each and every one of you who comes back. Hold on, let me see if I got any new countries to listen to me so far. UK, Nigeria, U.S. Virgin Islands. I have a sneaking suspicion of who that is, but I can't be sure. Germany, Ireland, and of course the United States. So again, thank you all for coming through. If there's anything you want me to touch on, talk about, please don't hesitate to hit me up. Control your Epps-perience on with the underscores in between the words on Instagram. On Facebook, I'm in jail, but you can still DM me. I'll see it. Alan Epps. On Twitter at DaPeniz DAPENIZ Mightier. And or yeah, you can even email me, askapps@gmail.com. All those ways. If you want to be a guest, live or otherwise, I have the equipment. All you would have to do is call me, or if you have a webcam, we can do that. We can pre-record, we can go live. It's all up to you. But until I hear from one of you, I'm going to continue to control my Epps-perience, and I hope you all do the same. Please be safe. For those of you, I don't expect anything to shake down here in the DMV because, like I said, DC is locked the fuck down. But allegedly, these people are supposed to be going to storm their state capitals or do a similar protest on Inauguration Day. So please be safe if you're in those metropolitan areas, especially in states where open carry is allowed, because white people are going to wipe most assuredly, but they damn sure not bringing that shit back to DC because they already know what's going on. But other than that, please protect yourselves, and I look forward to talking to y'all next week. More gunshots because I paid for them.